Right? No room for error.
See, that's the thing, is that we are now post error being a problem.
Right. Everything's
We're
allowed.
Trump world now, right?
Okay.
So like, make up your own words.
Are we just chatting, or are you gonna ask questions?
I will eventually.
How does it work? Okay.
Yeah, we're just doing a lead in. We're just getting jokes.
right.
Yeah, no.
We're blockaded.
Thank you.
All volunteer.
Cuban POWs.
He killed him on the spot.
Blockade or whatever. Collapse.
The more isolation.
Campaña de propaganda contra Cuba.
But we are with now, and thank you so much, Mr. David Adler from Progressive International. Has been so much of a leading force in starting up this delegation. So maybe we just start there.
Sure.
As to why Cuba? Why right now?
The idea for this mission starts on the 29th of January, on the exact day that Trump declares Cuba an extraordinary, unusual threat to the United States.
Yep.
Dog shit declaration that has not even the support of his own party.
Yeah.
And uses that excuse to launch really an unprecedented and barbaric tactic in the hemisphere, which is the siege of the islands. Not just blockading any fuel energy from entering, but as the records show, blockading even like commercial exchange with the island, because everyone is afraid of what the U.S. was doing, which was confiscating boats.
Yes.
Mind you, these are the same people who are like, we love capitalism so much, and they're confiscating private property of third countries and third companies who want to exchange on sovereign terms with Cuba for cold hard cash. The whole thing is hypocritical to the max. And the point from our side was, it didn't take an Einstein or a Lenin to see that as a result of this siege, there would be horrific humanitarian consequences for everyone on the island, which we saw in the Monday apagón, in the Monday blackout in the islands. But, we're here in Havana at the Pabellon, and, the lights are working and people are singing. Well, let's be honest. This is a country of 10 million people, other cities, smaller cities, not to mention the rural areas, and the absence of electricity, the absence of fuel, is not like it's not to watch television. Yep. It's not to power your iPhone. It's for homes, hospitals, fridges, dialysis machines, pacemakers, the stuff that keeps people alive.
Well, they've even announced like schools have had to close down because just of fuel.
Every fundamental right established by the UN Charter and afterwards, in the decades of, the expansion to social, economic, cultural rights, is not just menaced, but is eradicated by this siege.
Yeah.
People have no access to culture. They have no access to jobs. They have no access to education. They have no access to food. I mean, this is a scandal of epic proportions that pales only in comparison in the 21st century to what we're doing to Gaza. I mean, to hot wars where we just rain bombs.
Yes, yeah.
And the insidious thing about economic warfare is that it helps us, in the United States, to export the costs politically of these consequences. Cuba's a failed state. There's no money, there's no oil. And we live in such a propagandized society that people eat this shit.
Yeah.
People really believe, well, socialism must have failed when we, through a commercial blockade of 6 decades, permit no access to the international trade system. That we, through the fallacious designation of Cuba as a state sponsor of terror, give them no access to the international financial system that we dominate through the control of the dollar system. Through the energy blockade, gives them no access to petroleum. There is no country in the world that could survive 1, 2, 3 months without access to critical energy. And Cuba is so resilient and so creative that they're finding ways to accelerate the green transition, to provide energy for homes and hospitals, to do with little as much as they can. And that's the most inspiring thing. And it's a complicated message because I am very inspired by the resilience, or as they call it, creative resistance of the Cuban people. But fuck that. They shouldn't have to resist.
They shouldn't have to.
And it revolts me that we're ruled by these cretins who have no regard. Forget human rights, forget democratic freedoms, forget all that shit. They have no regard for what they determine to be our national security. I mean, that's not a small thing. It's been so abused through the global war on terror or whatever, but they're like, national security is a real thing. Some countries do come under attack.
Yes.
But
Iran
if the Cubans,
versus Trump.
Cuba,
But yeah,
imagine the Cubans were to say, our national security is under threat.
yeah.
We're going to attack our oppressor. We would never, we would never, even when some terrorists from Florida take a U.S. registered boat illegally, stacked with machine guns and grenades, and go and attack the Cuban people, and they defend themselves from a terrorist attack, somehow our cretinous Republican leadership finds a way to blame them for it.
Well, I think it also is interesting thing in the American context. During COVID, when were told, you can't go to Chili's on Friday, and the just sheer anger and frustration that came from, I can't go out and buy things, right? But then there's no understanding for the Cuban people, or even the government being frustrated in this denial of actual economic freedom.
It's not just the Cubans.
Actual,
So, COVID-19, the pandemic. We talk about it as if it was some exogenous tragedy. No. COVID-19 was a genocide, the biggest genocide since World War II. A few pharmaceutical companies in Switzerland, Germany, Britain, and the United States were so keen to protect their profits. They let 10, 15 million people die across the poor countries of the world. The Cubans, even in their conditions of extreme poverty and sanction, developed 5 vaccines that were blockaded and denied access to accreditation at the World Health Organization. And they were ready to vaccinate the world at very low cost. And we prevented them from doing that.
And I think it was Bill Gates himself who even lobbied the U.S. government to make it private, the actual vaccines in the U.S.
We do not hate our oligarchs enough.
True.
They are not just responsible for the erosion of our democracy, for the capture of our institutions. They're responsible for not tens, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of deaths across the world. And you know who knows that? The rest of the world. Yep. We're the last people to understand who we are. And that's the real tragedy and the real Shakespearean irony of the whole thing. The world knows us better than we know ourselves. And yet we think that there's no propaganda in the United States. We live in such a free society. And yet we are fed so much disinformation, even from the media that we've claimed to trust, that it's going to take us a long time to peel back those layers. And ultimately, this is why I'm so grateful to you, to the delegation that came from the United States, because we're not here to put on some show. We're just here to tell you, come to Cuba and see this for yourself. Talk to real Cubans. Hear their frustrations. Are they going to say, Viva la Revolución? No, maybe not. But they're sure as shit going to say, this blockade's ruining my life.
Yep.
And that's the point, is I have my personal views. Sure. But does it matter? We're across the street from the Ministry of Public Health. That's where I was in 2022, helping them, putting on a showcase for the Cuban vaccines, because the amount of disinformation that our country disseminated to say that they were unsafe just because they were low cost was obscene.
Yep.
So go, talk to the doctors, talk to the patients, talk to everyone here who's been vaccinated with Cuban vaccines. Ask them, do they feel protected? How does Cuba's vaccination method compare to other countries? Even under Biden's state-sponsored terrorism designation that was signed cynically by Trump in the last week of his presidency. So, this is the thing. We get accused of being some Reds. Social. We're moderates. We're just people who want to defend the truth and the humanity of the world. And it's the world that's going crazy. So we have to hold the fort on the basics of decency and humanity. And we're lucky enough in that to count on millions of people across the world who share that sense of decency, of common sense. And you look at our country and go, what the fuck is happening in the United States? You guys have lost your goddamn minds. And I just tell them, all we can do is work hard to make sure we get them back.
I think on that aspect too of you can see ills, in the Cuban society. Nothing different than what you could see in New York, LA,
no,
DC.
different. Way worse in my city. We have 150,000 people living on the streets of Los Angeles. How many people have you seen living on the streets of Havana?
Handful.
And that's LA, a progressive haven. We have severe opioid crisis. We have young people murdering each other with guns that they buy for $5 at Big Five. It is a joke, the idea that we have moral authority to lecture anyone, let alone engage in economic warfare on the basis of that moral authority, when our society is in shambles. The most cruel, unjust, and unequal society in history. We have literal trillionaires and 150,000 people in LA alone living on the streets. This is not just an obscenity. It's a crime against humanity.
Yeah.
And you know who is generous with us and still says, we love the people of the United States? The Cubans.
You will hear people say, listen, we love Americans, we love everyone. And it's literally shown throughout Cuban history. There's no reason for this blockade. There's no
support for it.
Yeah.
We just came out with a big survey. 7% of U.S. Americans across the board support removing the Cuban government. 7. Like 23 or 25, whatever, support negotiations to reform the Cuban government. 53% say Cubans should just decide their own government for themselves.
Crazy.
The U.S. public, as impoverished mediatically, as disempowered politically, and as marginalized socially as our citizens may be, have common sense. And our problem is that we are not channeling enough righteous anger at the assassination, slaughter, and genocide that we commit in the name of what? Our security state, our pharmaceutical corporations, whatever it is. I mean, like, we have this whole civility discourse. Fuck that. It's time to be righteously angry and channel that righteous anger into a positive project grounded in love and solidarity and peace. But to tell young people, you know, who are overwhelmingly, something like 13% of Gen Z is proud to be from the United States, right? For the first time in history. We have to speak to those people. I don't feel proud to be from the United States.
What's to be proud of?
Right. The U.S. left me to die in an Israeli concentration camp. Fuck them. So my point is like, we need not to abandon our responsibility as citizens, but to say, okay, call me an American. Call me anti-American. I'm still going to come back and fight for the future of our country. Are we still streaming?
Yes. Just last question. Where do you see the left being the most beneficial, or people who, you know, are wanting to get engaged? You know, where do you see a good spot for people to lean in, get activated, you know, and really start moving this thing forward?
Right now, in the darkest halls of the Pentagon and of Fort Bragg, they are preparing plans to invade this country. So if I were to start someplace, it would be our beautiful, peaceful island neighbor, 90 miles off the coast of Florida, where we're preparing plans, as Trump said, to take the islands. That's not a left issue. It's not a flavor of socialism issue. It's not even remotely an ideological in a traditional sense issue. This is an issue of whether you believe in the sacred principle of self-determination or not. I have my own views, as you do you, about Cuba, whatever. We're not here to give instructions. We're not here to criticize. We're not here to support. We're here to talk to people, and we're here to say not in our name. You know, in the same way that Palestine and the genocide in Gaza was a cause not just for those of us who were trained and supported in the ideological. Dame un segundo que estoy en entrevista. Palestine became a human rights issue, a humanity issue, not even a rights issue.
Yeah.
A question of life or death. That's what's at stake here. Do we believe in a new colonial order, or do we believe in the struggle of a century and a half of valiant people, men, women, and children, and fathers, grandfathers who died in the struggle to liberate their countries? That's what's at stake here in Cuba.
David Adler, thank you so much.
Bye, chat.